Hello? We are about to get this party started. I'm not good at this. Not in the slightest. We're not even gonna do any missions. And then we're probably gonna lose this weapon, which is okay. Because I like the random weapons. But so I usually don't do multiplayer, but now I am. I've done Destiny, but I kept to myself in it. So I just said, you know what, I'm gonna try this. It was free, and I had a lot of fun. So the main thing we're gonna be doing is just trying to get to the evacuation place and then leave. We're gonna kind of be looting. Whatever we can get, we'll get. Yeah, the last time I streamed was in November. I couldn't believe it. So a lot's happened. I had the CT scan, and that was eventful. So if you don't know what a CT scan is, it's not like an MRI. An MRI is like this giant machine, and you go completely inside of it. And MRIs are really loud, too, and you have to be completely still. And so MRI is a giant magnet, stands for magnetic resonance imaging. And what it does is it spins the magnet around and essentially fries you. I mean, you don't feel anything. But, and then it has a sensor on the other side of the magnet, and it measures, you know, what is blocked by the magnet. So things like bone and stuff is blocked. To a certain degree, and so it allows doctors to see inside you without having to take you apart. And so that's the MRI, and like I said, it's really loud because what it does is it goes like dun 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 dun. And so last year I had an MRI of my head, because I was having kind of a lot of problems, which we later discovered was migraines with aura. And the reason why I didn't really think it was a migraine is I used to have super powerful headaches, and that was it. They were just really bad headaches. But now you find out they're migraines with auras, because I get like visual disturbances and everything, and sometimes I even go blind. And then, so a CT scan is easier. It's just kind of like a donut, and it feeds you through. So it's, if you're claustrophobic, it's not that big of a deal. And it's fast. So I went to my CT scan the other day. A lot of times they'll pop out over here. And so the CT scan was for my abdomen. And I was really thankful I got it because I've been having abdominal pain for a while. And the problem is, like, it will come and get really intense for about a month. And then, like, I kind of avoid doctors, which you might say is funny because I've been going to them frequently. And so, like, that's how bad it is. That I'm going so often. My controller went haywire. I know he's like over there somewhere. Oh man, you can see what the problem is. It's gonna take me forever to get to the exfil zone. But so the abdominal pain, it comes pretty quickly and then it lasts for a month, sometimes 2 months. But this past one started in November and it was really intense. I had to go to urgent care. I got antibiotics, which usually helps, and then and so I got the antibiotics and I had a hard time. I was streaming Forza while I was going through it, but I was very close to vomiting almost every day, and sometimes I did. Extremely nauseous. I couldn't stay awake that long, and I was sleeping like 14 hours. So I'm doing much better now, but I still had the pain. So I went to the CT scan, they looked at my innards, and then but the actual scan was funny because the lady was so nice. She was like so energetic and laughing and stuff, and I was like, wow, that'd be incredible to have that much energy all day long. And then she was like, oh, it takes longer to set this up than to actually scan. And I was like, yeah, that's like most things. It's the setup work that makes you tired. Spend all day getting things ready, and then it only takes 2 seconds. But so she set me up. I had to drink the whole day. I had to drink this stuff called contrast, and so what it does is it increases the contrast of the scan so they can see your organs and everything better. And if you have an issue, it will light that up in your intestines and stomach. So I had to wake up at I had to make sure I was awake by 8 because I had to drink it like 6 hours before. I don't remember if it's 6 or 8, but I had to drink it early. And so then I had to drink, half a bottle 6 hours early, then another half a bottle for... This is atrocious. We're just gonna try to go stealth. This. That only lasted 2 seconds. That was my fault for not having a good weapon. But okay, so during the CT scan, she was like, "Oh, it takes a long time to set up," and so I had to drink the last of the contrast, and it's nasty. It's like a very thick. They make it taste like vanilla, so like it could be worse. I remember as a kid there was, I think it was like liquid Advil or something for fevers, and that was like had like orange juice taste, and it didn't taste like orange juice. But yeah, so this one wasn't that bad, but it was something where it's like, okay, you chug it as fast as you can and try to not pay attention to it. And so I took the last of it in the place, which is important to the story. And so then she puts the IV in my arm, but she can't find my vein. So she literally put the needle in, and it was just in there, but not in the vein. And luckily she didn't pull it out. She kind of searched for the vein for a while. So I wasn't stabbed multiple times, and that's very unusual because usually it's quite easy to find my veins. I usually get a lot of blood tests, so it's not an issue. I'm not afraid of needles or anything. So she actually had to switch arms, and then she put the IV in. And so in addition to drinking the contrast, I was getting an IV of contrast. And so she was like, "Oh, you're going to feel some funny things maybe. I tell you all these things, but most people don't feel anything except that when she pumps the contrast, it's supposed to make you feel kind of like warm and fuzzy inside." I was like, okay. But she's like, "Oh, you may feel like you've gone to the restroom. You may feel like you've pooped, but you didn't." And I was like, "Oh, great." And she did all these things. And so I'm sitting there and going through the machine. I'm like, I was nauseous that morning, but not so much anymore. And so first they give you, oh man. First they give you usually at the gas station. We're gonna go around. Let's see what's in here. Got a laptop. Take some computer parts. light bulb. Now, like, they see far. Like I said, they see far. Here we go. The car is kind of the safest way to get to the. Do. There we go. I'm gonna go hide over here. This was a mistake. I can't believe I survived it that long with so many enemies. We almost had it too. I picked the wrong place to evacuate. Anyway, so they put the IV in and then pumped me with saline first. And she said I was supposed to get like this metallic taste in my mouth kind of reaction. That's what they always say when they give you saline. But it was weird because like I had this like really sweet taste. And so then the machine spins up. And it's funny because it's almost like Squid Game where they have the lady that's saying, you know, green light, red light. But it kind of warms up, starts spinning, and then it said, you know, breathe and then hold your breath. And then, so you do that a couple of times, but you don't go through it. And then she was like, okay, when it was time for the scan, like it only did it 3 times. And so then when it was time for the scan, she was like, okay, I'm putting the contrast in your vein. And it's all remote control. You're hooked up to the IV. She doesn't actually stay in the room because then she would get irradiated if she was there the whole time doing all the scans. But so then the contrast comes in and I did feel warm, but then I felt instantly nauseous. And so I was praying, I was like, please, because sometimes they do 2 or 3 scans where they just feed you through the machine and in and out. But luckily it was only one scan. And so I'm trying as hard as I can to not throw up. And it was really bad. And so then she comes in and I'm like, oh, please come in the room faster. And she's like, oh, how'd that go? And I was like, I feel really nauseous. And then she was like, okay. And then I sat up and I was like, I need a bucket. And she was like, oh. And so it was funny because there's this like cheese mat that she put under my legs so that they stay up. And then so there was this, she took that out and I was like, no, you gotta hurry. I didn't say that. And so then she got me a bucket and I threw up in it. And it was not that much. It was only the contrast that I had just taken. But we're getting lucky being spawned so close to these exit points. Now you have to be careful in these places because sometimes they're booby trapped. And there's a wire, if you cross it, you'll explode. And so, so yeah, so then after the scan, I was completely fine after I threw up. Now it would be great if there was a car. Sometimes there's weapons at the top of those towers. Dreadful. But, so after the CT, I was like, oh, can I have a CD? You should always ask for a CD because sometimes the way it works is the radiologist will look at your scan and then they write a report and they give the report to your doctor. The doctor usually won't even get the image. And so the radiologist looks for things, and they're really good at finding stuff. But I don't know what's up with my controller. So I asked for the CD, and they're like, okay, we'll give it to you. And I'm sitting in the waiting room, and it was funny because there was like 5 or 6 people in there, and they were scanning people quick. It was like one person done, the next person done. And then it was funny, this one lady was complimenting my pants. I usually try to not wear anything metal in a CT scan because it blocks the things they can see. So I was wearing my pajama pants, which didn't have any metal. And the lady was like, oh, your pants look so comfortable. They're like the fake sheepskin pajamas. I was like, oh, thank you. And so then I'm waiting, and it's like been 20 minutes, which is funny because the scan only took like maybe 10 minutes. And like I said before, it was like 9 minutes of putting the IV in and laying down on the table. And it was like 30 seconds for the actual scan. And so I'm in the waiting room, and then finally I go up and I'm like, hi, I'm waiting for a disc. And they're like, oh. This one's farther, but there's less stuff around. And so they're like, oh, they were never going to give it to me. That's not what they said, but they didn't get the note that I was waiting for a CD. So then she ran to the back and got it for me. So I was like, good thing I asked. There's usually not enemies in here. No. And so that was what happened for the CT scan. So I got the disc and I looked at it, and it was hard to read. But essentially I had this huge amount of like air stuck in my intestines. And it was funny because I joke, I'm like Big Hero 6, I'm just a giant balloon. And then so that was there, and then I had kind of this like giant blockage in my intestines. I was like, oh. And so I was like, oh no, it's gonna take forever for them to read this, because usually like it takes them like maybe a week or so, depending on how busy they are. So I was like, I'm gonna wait forever to see what, you know, the radiologist says. And the next day they emailed me with my healthcare. They give me a email anytime something's added to my file. So I read it, and it was funny because they were like, yeah, there's a blockage. And essentially I was impacted, which is really gross. And so then they were like, there were other things they found too. They were like, it turns out I have scoliosis. They were like, your spine is, they said something funny. It wasn't mild. They said it's moderately curved, which is funny because my mom's always like, oh, you're always, you know, sitting crooked. You know, you got to align yourself. So now I tell her, I'm like, I have a crooked spine. Leave me alone. But so that was funny. It wasn't even anything I was looking for. there's way more of them than I thought. My random weapons were really bad in the beginning. I do better with long range things. I got like 2 shotguns at the beginning of this stream. Yeah, so now we knew I was constipated, we just didn't know how bad it was. So it was pretty bad. And so it's funny because I found my bladder, and like I'm known for having to go to the restroom a lot. And just kind of figured like maybe my prostate was large. But in the scan they were like, you have a tiny one, and I was like, how rude. But that's good. But my bladder is like completely sandwiched against the wall of my abdomen. So I was like, no wonder I have to go to the restroom so often. It was like I was pregnant, you know? And so hopefully I won't have to go so often anymore once it's fixed. But yeah, I've been, for the past month, I've been taking Miralax twice a day. On the bottle it says to do it once a day, but the doctors were like, no, you have to do this twice a day. I always drink a lot of fluid, but now I'm drinking even more. It's probably like 2 gallons of water a day. And just straight up water. And it's funny because I've been doing a lot of research, and it's something like 70% of Americans are dehydrated. And then of the ones that are dehydrated, 90% of them don't even drink 1 cup of water. And so, you need straight water, not water with things in it, to be hydrated. And so I was like, how does, Americans, well, not just Americans, how does someone not drink a single cup of water? And so I guess people drink coffee, which doesn't count as hydration. And or soda or anything, but don't even drink 1 cup of water. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. There's like someone right here. It was fun while it lasted. So that was interesting. So I've been drinking, straight water. And coffee is actually the opposite of hydration. It will dehydrate you. So I have been making my coffee significantly weaker. And the other thing is, if you drink coffee, you shouldn't eat while you drink coffee, because coffee will actually block you from absorbing iron. And so, you need iron so your blood's not anemic. So if you drink coffee, you should just drink it by itself. And then, what else did I learn? Yeah, so it's that. And so, I've been taking Miralax like crazy. And Friday, I just started taking Metamucil. And that's what that does, is it adds fiber. And so fiber is things your intestines can't process very well. So it essentially just kind of cleans out your intestines. And so with fiber, you have to start off slowly, or else bad things happen. Like you'll start cramping, and you can actually become more constipated. So I started Friday doing 1 dose a day, but then Wednesday I'm gonna go up to 2 doses. And then there's other medications I take for it. So hopefully it starts working. It's been a month so far since I've started all this stuff. And they said it's going to take a long time. So my next doctor's appointment is January. Oh no, I'm back to the shotgun. Let's take the boat. This is actually good practice. I live in Michigan, and one of the projects I'm going to be working on is doing some underwater photography in lakes and stuff, as well as ponds. I do a rerun of the footage I get. But I have an inflatable kayak, which I was disappointed. I got it in August, but I wasn't able to use it because I had COVID, and that lasted about a month as well. Like when I get sick, I get really sick. Still have a ways to go. But I do plan on getting an inflatable raft. Not raft, but I'm looking at the Briss band, and I think it was called like Newport, but they're expensive. I'm going to be applying to jobs online. I really thought I would do something like in retail again, but my abdomen is like really sensitive, and so like I can't lift things. I got shelves for my room, and they're like small shelves. And that helicopter just added enemies. This is very exciting. Oh no, we're here. All the doors are open, so there might be somebody in here. Oh, fingers crossed. Gonna try to use the cover of the train. We're so close. So close. We might do it. We might do it. We might do it. I have a safe place. I don't see anyone coming out. Up. Dreadful. There's only one dude too. They're gonna do one more. One more go. Man, good news is over the week I finally did an update. I wrote this program with Django and Python. Django is this framework for Python where you can still write Python, but it's inside of a website, so you can control the Python code through a web interface. And so I've written this program that allows me to do things like render in Blender and do encoding with FFmpeg on my server without me having to SSH in through the terminal. So it's so much nicer. And so I wrote this one part of the website, and it essentially it lets you run any Python script you want. You have to tell it what Python scripts you have, but I have like maybe hundreds of Python scripts, all for doing different things, and some of them are for like doing different things, but slightly different. And this is like not ideal. Sometimes there's a vault in here. We'll do one more. That was ridiculous. And so like there's this one Python script I have up and running, and so what it does is it renders in Blender my animations or video edits, but it renders 100 frames at a time. So it will do 100 frames, then stop and say, okay, I've stopped at frame 100, and then it will start again, but it will go from 101 to frame 200. And so the reason why it does it that way is in case there's a power outage or something fails on the server and it restarts randomly, it has a save point, and so then when you go to render again, it just picks up from where it left off. And that has been so helpful, because if a render fails in Blender or anything really in Premiere, you have to start over from the beginning. And it takes the whole time. And so with animations, I'm working with 20 or 30 or 50 megapixel images, so it's doing one frame at like 2 seconds. It takes 2 seconds to do one frame, and there are 30 frames. I do 30 FPS. There's 30 frames in a second, so you can see how long that takes. If it has to do 30 frames for 1 second and each one takes 2 seconds, it takes a minute to do 1 second of animation. And then my animations are larger. They're like 10 to, you can even be an hour long animations. And so doing the with the save points, if it fails and it's been like 7 hours, it starts up again from where the last place it succeeded. So I had that up and running, but I didn't have a status report, so I would know that it's running because I would check on the terminal. I would SSH into the server, but I just added a couple of days ago this part of the web page, and it tells you, okay, it's on this frame, it's 60% done, and then it will tell you, okay, I finished this project and move on to the next. Because I work kind of in batches where I'll animate almost a whole project, and then I submit that to render. The one project I have, I've animated the first 10 animations, and then I'm going to do another set for something else with the same photos. I was just minding my own business. How rude. So we're gonna end it here. I want to thank everyone for coming out. I'll be uploading this to YouTube, and it's probably going to come out in podcast form. I stream on Thumbs United on Twitch. The photography and everything I do and creative stuff is Fortations. You can go to fortations.com. There's a store, fortationstore.com. And you spell Fortations PHOTATIONS.com. Thank you for coming by. See you later.